Hello, everybody, and welcome to Big Bold You, a show that is dedicated to inspiring everyone out there. And yes, I'm talking to you individually to play bigger in your life because, believe it or not, it's easier to play bigger. Now, you might be scared, but it's easier to play bigger. We want to inspire you to be bolder, which means you have got to step out of your comfort zones. You are going to get the same results if you continue to do the same things. And the reason we want to inspire you to be bigger and to be bolder is because we want to help you become the best version of yourselves. I believe that we live in a world where there is a war between good and evil. It has been that way for many hundreds of thousands of years. It's going to continue on. And the only way evil wins is when good people like yourselves, like myself, and like our beautiful friends and family that we know do not do more. And we can and we should, and together we will. So each Monday at 3 p.m. Central, we bring you some incredible guests to help you grow yourself personally and professionally. And I'm telling you, the guests that we have today, you are going to love. And it's no one else than my communications strategist, Margaret Croom. You will see her, and the topic is tips to make your business scalable. And whether you want your business to be scalable or not, I promise you, you want your business to be scalable. So Margaret, thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me. This is great.
She's amazing. And I'm telling you, this is my secret weapon. I mean, honestly, if people are like, how do you do all that you do? I'm like, I just do whatever she tells me to do.
Right.
So tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, siblings, married, children. You know, we want to get down and dirty with you before you share all your greatness with everybody.
Okay. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, down in the DeSoto, Duncanville, Lancaster area. And I went to college in Oklahoma, and that's where I met my husband, Mike Croom.
Yes.
And he is an environmental health and safety engineer, but I went the technology route. My career started working for EDS back in the early 90s on the Enron account in Houston. And I like to say it was before they were bad. I wasn't there when they were bad.
It wasn't your fault.
Yes. Yeah. So my background is information technology. That's what my degree is in. But it's really all of that technology type stuff is all about communications. So over the years, as technology changes, I've adapted to all of the things that you do. And I have two young adult men as children.
Right.
Yeah. One's 26, the other one's 23. And my oldest is recently married, Corbin. And my youngest, Aaron, is about to graduate for Eastern Washington University.
I know. And this is a fun stage of life, isn't
is.
it? I mean, that's one thing. I've got 5 kids. I've got all of them. Well, one has graduated from college and then 4 are still in college. But Margaret and I talk about all the time. We're like, this is a really cool phase of life, and especially the world in which we live right now. I mean, especially for women, but we're really just beginning.
Yeah.
We are really just beginning. Okay. So, I mean, the men, you're awesome and we love you. But for the women, you know, when you've got your kids on their way, and hopefully, you know, you just cross your fingers, they're on a good path.
Right.
You get to really focus more on your gifts and talents. And when did you know, because when you graduated, you don't have to tell me what year that was, but when you graduated from college, what was the world like with regards to social media and the internet and everything?
Well, there wasn't, but I will have to say that I was a tester of WYSIWYG, and WYSIWYG is an acronym for what you see is what you get. And I was a tester, and that's what's behind a lot of the internet today as far as building WordPress sites and word processors, also Microsoft Word and Excel. What is behind there, the coding is called WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get, so that the regular person can use those tools.
Right.
So when I interned at IBM in Las Colinas in the 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s.
And
when hair was big
Shoulder pads.
Hey, when hair was big, not just for the ladies, for the men too. Big hair. I mean, I love the 80s.
Yeah. So I learned how to use the word processor, where you type in and you hit a button, it would type it for you. And that's when the databases and they were huge, and you had to put a jacket on and earphones on to go into the big database rooms.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and to hear each other, it was so loud, and you saw all that data going and things like that.
That's so crazy. So you really, it blows my mind, because when I was in graduate school is when the internet really came about. And I can remember I don't know if I told you the story or not, but I can remember sitting in a class, and I wanted an A in the class, and the only difference between an A and a B was an A, you had to have a website. You at least had to have a landing page website. Now, to me, all this was like speaking a foreign language. I knew I wanted to get an A, so I paid somebody to do that, and I still do to this day. I still pay people because, but I just, in my wildest dreams, I didn't think the internet was going to be as big as it is.
Well, the internet was out there, but just the average person that didn't really have using it didn't know about it. But those of us that were in the technology were using it, and it was a different way to use it. I know that data used to be on cards, and I wasn't quite that old where we were shoving these little punch cards into there, but I've seen them. And so yeah, we were programming it so the average person could use the internet when I got out of college. So.
It's so crazy. So tell everybody what you do. I mean, because I know what you do, and I tell everybody, if you're in business, it doesn't matter if you're in corporate America, if you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, whatever it is, and you don't have a communications strategist working with you side by side, holding your hand, you're not going to be able to scale, and you're really not going to be able to be as successful as your potential.
Right.
Because you just don't know what you don't know. So share with everybody what you do.
Well, communication is so important. So I like to say my background is in managing information, so to speak. But the reason you manage that information is so that you can communicate effectively to whoever your audience is. And because of the internet these days, you can really niche down to who your audience is going to be. It doesn't have to be everybody.
Right.
And it typically isn't everybody.
No, it's not everybody.
It's not everybody.
It's not
and
everybody.
It's okay.
But here's the thing, and to everybody that's watching, if you answer that question, who is your ideal client, and you say anyone, then you need some help, because it's not anyone. You don't want to work with everybody. They don't want to work with you. Your gifts and talents and your skill sets are geared towards a certain group of people, and it just is that way. So that's really one of the things I love about what you do, because what Margaret does is whenever we talk, she's like, just keep talking. I'm writing this down. I'm writing this down. So to really grasp a hold.
Well, one of the things I wanted to point out about you, and a perfect example, is you've got great branding. I didn't make your branding, but you have great branding, but you can have great branding and it just sit there.
Right.
What are you going to do with it?
Exactly.
You have to do something with it.
I know, and I know you've got a bunch of great slides. So when you're ready to get into the slides, just let Ziggy know. He's amazing.
Okay.
And really a great happy holidays and Merry Christmas for those that
New Year's Eve. Christmas Eve.
It's
sorry.
Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve.
It's Christmas Eve.
We'll talk
New Year's Eve. Christmas Eve.
We're going to talk more about Christmas Eve later.
Yes, absolutely. Well, one of the things that I told you, you said, I want to have you on my show and, talk about communication, but I really wanted to talk about what is, to me, is the biggest elephant in the room for especially women business owners. And men can take this advice too. It's for any business owner that's an entrepreneur or self-employed, but it's how to scale your business.
Yes, and that's so important.
It is important. And you know this,
right.
that less than 2% of all women-owned businesses ever gross $1 million a year. And so, but not every business is set up to do that.
Right.
And you are self-employed or an entrepreneur, and there's a big difference. I happen to be both. I have a segment of my business life that is self-employed, and then I have and with you, I'm self-employed.
Right.
And then I also have something else I do that's not, it's totally entrepreneurial endeavor.
Right, exactly.
And so I wanted to talk about what the difference was and how to scale both, because you can scale both.
Okay, I would love that, because, and I think you, on your slides, I think you define and explain the difference, because some people don't even realize the difference between being self-employed and an entrepreneur.
That's right. So when you're self-employed, you're trading time. You say, this is how much time I'm willing to pay for. This is how much time I'm willing to give you. And this is what I charge for it. That is self-employed.
Right.
And so the other thing is you own it, you own your own business, and you have a lot more flexibility in it, and a lot more financial freedom depending on when you want to make money and when you don't. But I would say the hardest business or type of business to scale is a self-employed business.
Right, I'm sure.
Right. And so, one of the things that the other category that people call themselves all the time, that they're entrepreneurs just because they're self-employed, and they're actually not entrepreneurs.
Right.
And so basically an entrepreneur, you're not selling your time. Okay. You may have a product or a service, but you're not selling your time.
Right.
And it's something that can be scalable. Price can fluctuate the more people buy it. You don't have to be integrally involved in every single aspect of it,
right?
Because it's growing. It's like, I'm developing a widget and I want 1 million people to buy it. That's more entrepreneurial endeavor than self-employed.
Right,
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the other thing about being an entrepreneur is you have a system in place. And we talk about this all the time, about having a system in place and sticking by that system.
Yes, you have to. I think this is a common problem that people have in every industry, and that is the shiny object.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I see that pretty shiny object.
Or what someone else is doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's you've got to make a plan, and you know how big I am. When I talk to people and we start talking about business, which I typically don't talk about business right out of the gate, because I love people first, and then whatever it evolves into, it does. But once I start to talk to people about business, I can tell extremely quickly if they're working off a 12-month plan or not. And if you're not working off a 12-month plan, you just get distracted, and you've got to have focus. And there's a lot of very the hard work and intention that goes into being successful. So
absolutely,
I love it that you're explaining this to people, because I know a lot of people don't know, are they self-employed, are they an entrepreneur, are they both?
That's right.
Because
yes, self-employed people can scale their business. They can do that. And so what I have on my slide is basically, you need to change your price structure. You can do that. And how you do that, you charge for value versus time, meaning, but you have to be able to show value to be able to do that.
Right.
Instead of saying I charge $100 an hour, you can say this service I'm doing is worth $20,000, but you have to make sure you can deliver that value in order to charge like that. So that's one way. The other way is you can look at different outsourcing options so that you can have more people helping you get the job done in less time.
Absolutely.
That's super important. So say that you're a CPA, you make most of your money during tax season. And so a lot of times you have to contract out to other people so that you can make more money instead of concentrating on just a few tax returns, especially if you do it for businesses.
And then, have you read the book, The 4-Hour Work Week?
I have, Tim Ferriss.
Okay, yes. So
that's my goal in life.
Right. I was going to say, if somebody is looking to scale your business, and you first of all, you do have to connect with the right people, because I don't know how to do this on myself. I just find people that do. But if you want a good book to read, that is a great book to read.
It really is
regarding scalability.
Yeah, it really is a goal in life. You kind of have to work it down from a 4-hour work day to a 4-hour work week. And and you also have to be able to invest the money, and you have to have a scalable business to do that.
Right.
But yeah, that is totally my goal in life, is the 4-hour work
And
week.
I know that you will achieve it.
Yes.
Too.
And the last point, one of the, not the exact last point.
But I mean, will you all 4 hours, will you work for me?
Someone will be.
If she's only going to go to 4 hours, I want your company working for me during that time.
Right. And you brought up a while ago the shiny object. I call it the shiny object syndrome. It is one of my, and I'm very analytical, so it's one of my biggest pet peeves when people are like, look what they're doing. I want to do that. Let's see if it works. It's not on your communication plan. Oh, can you put it on there and let's try it? What about the other thing we were planning to do?
Right, exactly.
You can't be like that.
Well, and you need someone to tell you that, because that's one of the things that I do with people, as well as I do my greatness with them, but then I also direct them to people that are like you. But you have to have people, when you decide to go off your plan, they have to say, no, that's not the game plan. That's not what we're doing right now.
And there's nothing wrong with pivoting if something's not working.
Exactly.
But you have to do something for more than 30 days.
Exactly.
And you can't do something once. And if it wasn't super highly successful, it's a failure.
Right. No.
I mean, I get that a lot too.
Right. I'm sure.
So there's a little bit of therapy going in, psychology that I have to use with clients too. But one of the things I was going to point out too, and this goes for self-employed people and entrepreneurs, is about your ideal client that we talked about earlier, and all your marketing marketing efforts need to be honed in on that ideal client.
Yes.
And you'll get people that buy from you, do service with you, that I call peripheral. They're on the peripheral.
Right.
And they might be doing something that that is extra money for you, but they're not your ideal client. And you and I did this.
Oh, yes.
You know, recently, and we're still working on to make sure that all your copy, all your efforts is after that ideal client for sure.
Well, and you know, here's the thing too, and I it's not on your screen, on your slide, but you and I have talked a lot about the difference between your target market and your ideal client, and I think people get those two confused as well. They think, okay, they want to talk to everybody in their target market, and the exercise that you and I did with the ideal client, I'm going to tell you right now, it was one of the most fun exercises I've ever done, because you're just focusing on your one most favorite client, and you start to write down all of the information to that one. And that's what's so awesome, is the depth that we went into in that one exercise. It really blew my mind, and it has opened my eyes to see the misses that people are making because they're going too broad still.
Absolutely. And then it helps you fashion your copy and all your messaging to that person.
Right.
And there's a whole bunch of people out there like that person.
Right. I mean, you don't realize that. I mean, you honestly think, oh, I've got to have it really big because I've got to have a big net, because you don't believe that there's a lot of people like you. And usually we attract who we are.
Right.
And so,
Absolutely.
you know, I'm an extrovert person. I'm results oriented. I like to work hard, but I like to play just as hard, and I'm really funny. So you think, oh, well, gosh, I can't speak to all of that because there's not other people that are like that, but there are. And that's one thing. You've got a really great sense of humor too. And Margaret and I are coming up with some really funny things.
Yeah, we do have some fun things coming up. And the last point, and I'll move on to entrepreneur, is what I said before, is make sure you have outsourcing options.
Yes.
Those things that you make sure that you're doing those things that you're a genius at, and all those other things. Like I tell clients a lot, you don't want to pay me to do your social media because you can get someone for $15 to $20 an hour to do that.
Right.
As long as you have a communication plan.
Exactly.
You know, and they're following that communication plan.
Right.
And so you can outsource those little things and save yourself a lot of time, and then work in your zone of genius.
Yes,
so to speak.
it's so important. All right, next slide.
The next one is entrepreneurs, and I love to talk about this. I've been involved in the entrepreneur community for decades in helping and mentoring and things like that. But the number one thing is a competent growth strategy, or you call a game plan.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
but it's a growth strategy. And competent meaning don't make it crazy. I mean, we
Right.
all want to
We
sell
make
a
it-
million widgets, but
Right.
you know,
we've
Yeah.
got to be realistic. And this is another thing that Dave, my husband, loves so much about Margaret, because it's monetizing all those gifts and talents. And you got to grow, okay?
right.
You have to grow.
And you need a product or a service that's replicable, and that's what makes it scalable.
Exactly.
So if it's replicable, you can keep doing it. And again, you don't have to be involved in every single little thing for it to be successful.
Yes.
And the other big thing is anticipating demand. So for instance, if you plan on, and your goal by the end of the year is to sell 50,000 of something, say you're retail and you're online, what do you have to do every single month? But guess what? You have to anticipate is the shipping and the customer service for selling 50,000. How are you going to deliver that?
Oh, yeah,
And
definitely.
that's anticipating.
Yes.
And it might not be yet, but you have to have a plan for it so that you won't lose your shirt.
Oh, and that's, you know, one thing, my husband is a CEO, and he's been in corporate America as an executive forever. And when we start working with some of our clients that don't have that experience from corporate America, that's some of the very first expenses that Dave always comes in with. Do you realize the expense that's going to be involved in all this back end that you're talking about?
right.
And most people don't know, because again, that's not your specialty, but you
right.
do have to be with people that can point that out to you, so you can make arrangements for it.
And again, entrepreneurs also have to have the whole ideal client regimen. It doesn't matter if you're self-employed or if you're an entrepreneur. That is going to be
Right.
a tip for everybody. But the other thing is a simplified business model. If you're going to be scalable, it needs to be simplified. It cannot be complicated.
Right.
at all.
I know. See, that's the thing is what people don't realize is you want it so simple that it can run without you, because that's what Scalable is. It's being able to run without you, and you can replicate it without you being there. And you can't be so important. It can't be just about you.
That's right.
And some people that's going to work for, because they understand that, and other people, they do want it to be just about them, and that's okay also. But you can't have a scalable business with that mindset.
Well, if you're the product,
Right.
but you only have so many hours in the day, and part of those hours needs to be sleeping, and part of those hours need to be with your family.
Right.
So it's not
Realistic. It's not real.
No, I don't think it's a good strategy at all. And the last thing is, and you talk about this when you do corporate training about hiring resilient people, and people that are not in there. It's me. I'm going to be in here a short period of time so I can get out and keep going.
Right.
Up the scale. There's nothing wrong with that type of philosophy, but you as an entrepreneur need to hire people who see the things that are bigger than you are.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's so true. And that's one of the things that, that's where I started, was in corporate America. I was in corporate America. My master's is in training and development. I did a lot of training and development in corporate, and I love it because it serves such a meaningful purpose in this world that we live in, specifically here in the U.S. And I think that people have to be resilient in every area. In corporate America, as an entrepreneur, as a self-employed person, just to be able to give back to the world in which we live. And resilience is something I'm really big into.
Well, one of the things I also wanted to point out about being not being a cog in the wheel,
Right.
and not making sure that that's not about you. A lot of times what I see, and this is hard, when you create something, you feel it's yours.
Right.
Okay. But think about if Bill Gates would have said, this is my technology, mine, we wouldn't have what we have today.
Exactly.
Or the same with Steve Jobs. This
Right.
is mine. I created it. I need to be in the middle of it. So it's basically getting out of your own way.
Exactly.
Yes.
But, I think that when you have the mindset that you realize, I put development into 3 pillars. It's personal development, professional development, and legacy development. And that mindset of people that are actively working in legacy development, it's just to your point, what you just said, it's not about them. They understand that the gifts and talents and the ideas and thoughts that they've been given, they've just been given those ideas so they
Right.
can really build it out for the benefit of all mankind and womankind. And it's not about them.
Well, and the other thing too is you have to keep things in perspective. Again, you can't try something for a month, and if it doesn't work, say, why am I paying this person?
Right.
I mean, it's crazy, to do that. I was talking to your husband at your Christmas party, and he was talking about how he had to spend $1 million to save $10 million in leases for the business. And that is perspective.
Right.
He could get hung up on the $1 million, but he saved the company $10 million in the long run.
Right.
And it's the same thing with small business owners as well, and entrepreneurs, is you have to keep everything in perspective, look at the big picture in the long run, not at the moment.
Right. And I really think, when you said that, it just popped into my head. I think that's one of the reasons why Dave and I have had so much success in the world as entrepreneurs, because we had so much success in corporate America, and we still are involved in corporate America, and we understand there's a lot of learnings that you receive in corporate America that people that are self-employed, that are entrepreneurs, they just don't have that experience because they haven't had that at that level. And that is so true. Dave and I are very good about saying, look, let's look at the big picture, because you always have to have that big picture in mind. But a lot of people don't even have a little picture.
Well,
You gotta get the big one.
Right. And the other thing is like you said at the very beginning, is please do not be afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
There are services out there that you don't specifically have to pay for if you're providing a service back to them. So there's communities even here in the Dallas area and in other cities where other people are watching these, where people come collectively to help each other work on each other's business.
Yes, it's so true. It's so true. You just have to understand the importance of the mastermind, and it's really working with people to share your experiences and your thoughts and everything. I mean, it's so important.
So just to review, I have the slide that's 5 critical areas that you need.
I know.
To manage constantly. I'm just going to review them again.
Okay.
You need to be proactive, not reactive. It's super hard, especially with women, not to be reactive.
Right.
So you need to.
That's a show in and of itself, Margaret.
Yes. And you need to anticipate demand. Don't react to it.
Exactly.
I'm one of these people that the hairier, scarier, more pressure and stress that it comes in, the calmer I get.
Right. I'm very much like that also. It just
it does no one any good to run her up and down the hall screaming and crying.
No,
it
no,
doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. It doesn't solve it.
It just
and you
messes
can't be
up
your best
makeup.
self.
You just mess up your makeup
Well,
when you
not
do
only
that.
that, but you can't be your best self in thinking
can't.
next steps.
No, you can't. You can't. You have to
Calm
you know,
yourself.
I think it's very important for people to realize you make the best decisions when you are not emotional. I mean, it's common sense, but so many people make decisions when they're in an emotional state.
That's right.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
The next one was don't be a cog in the wheel of your business.
Right.
Make sure that you basically get out of your own way. And even if you're self-employed, if you want to scale, okay. I have a friend that she is a financial advisor. And there's only so much she can do by herself.
Right.
You know, and she makes good money. She makes over $200,000 a year. That's good money.
Right.
But she wants to even grow further than that. And so she's got to bring in and be able to relinquish control.
That's right.
As a self-employed person and not be a cog in her own wheel.
That's
right.
basically
what it's called. Don't overlook perspective. You know, make sure you get a perspective of your big picture and what you're trying to do.
Right. And I think in this one right here is you don't know what you don't know. You can't see what you can't see. So it is vitally important that you have other people's perspectives. One of the things I say to people that I know and I love so much, and so I know them very well, you know, I can see that they're traveling on their own path. They're not coachable.
Right.
So, or they're coachable only to the point of if they like what you're saying to them, then they'll follow it. But you have to realize that when other people bring in a new perspective, and you've done this for me, and I love it. You've given a lot of perspective on different topics, and we've pivoted, and I've got other people that I work with as coaches and mentors that do that. And I always just trust you. I just say, okay, if this is what you think is best, and I have never been sorry. And it's saved years and so much time and money and heartache just listening to what you have shared.
Well, and I find some of the most inspirational people to work with are coaches, but they're also the hardest to work with because they're coaches. They want to coach you.
Right,
Well,
exactly.
You need to get out of your coaching mode for for a minute.
Exactly.
Because this is my zone of genius, and I can't even be in yours because that's not my genre.
I'm just like the best at that, aren't I, Margaret?
You're the best. One of the other things that I didn't mention is about when you to build into your business redundancies. And the reason I'm saying that is because it's impossible to build a fail-safe business.
Right.
You can't think of everything.
Exactly.
But you can get really close by building in fail-safes to your businesses that where you always, I call it making money when you sleep. Think of something you can do or that can be put out there on the internet that can make you money while you sleep, even if it's a little bit.
Exactly.
Because then if you, I know people who, they only want 5 clients and they're big clients. Whoops, my thing came out. They're big clients and they make them a lot of money, but I've seen this before in agencies where they have $1 million client and then that $1 million client jumps ships to go somewhere else.
Right.
And they have to let go half of their staff. So make sure you build those.
Right. That's some of the things that I'm working on for 2019 is just like you said. I mean, I'm a master planner. I love it. And of course, I've worked with planners and I'm making my own planner in 2019 that's going to go along with my retreats that I do in October because I'm so big on planning, but I have like 3 or 4 systems that I put together because I don't have one system that plans and does it exactly the way I do it. But, you know,
but you have to finish planning at some point. I'm sure
you
have
to.
Clients that's the biggest thing.
Oh, right. Exactly.
I'm not ready. I'm still planning.
Well, of course. It's learn knowledge and activity knowledge. Right. You've got to do the activity.
You have to do the activity.
We have to get them out and work.
And the last thing, you brought it up, I bring it up, is don't be afraid to ask for help. It's okay.
Yes,
yeah,
for sure. You know, I think that But I can't even, that mindset, where did that come from? Where you have to do it all by yourself. You have to do it all by yourself, because so many people have that. If you are one of those that has that mindset that you think you've got to do everything by yourself, obviously it's in that subconscious brain of when they were growing up. But
well, and I've heard that term, hire people that are smarter than you. I don't necessarily agree with that, because you in your own right are smart. It's almost like an insult.
Right.
I like to say, hire people who fill in for what you don't know.
Exactly.
Because you can't know everything.
No, and I think that's the best piece of advice is hire people that know what you don't know and that you get along with. I'm going to tell you, I was having a conversation with one of my clients this morning on the way here, and you have to go with your gut. Your gut tells you who you're going to work the best with. And you can have somebody who's extremely talented, who really knows their stuff, but your gut is saying, that's just not the right person. And go with that gut. Go with the gut.
Well, and I also like to say the opposite of, when you're like, I've got to let somebody go, you need to be able to do that with clients as well.
Yes.
Because what happens is if you have a client you don't get along with, or there is that you don't enjoy working with them,
right,
that means they're taking up the space for someone that could be in there that you absolutely, and you guys do gangbuster things.
I know.
So it's okay. People don't do it out of fear that
Right.
there's not going to be someone else out there, but there always is.
Oh, there always is.
And ask the person that you get along with the most and you like their style. You ask them, do you have anyone to refer to me in
Right.
your network and that kind of thing? And like, yeah, this is your personality. Here's somebody.
Well, and I think that I don't know, are you done with all your slides? Because
Yes.
you got some good slides. Okay, one of the things that I said to Margaret, because I do think you are so valuable, everything that you do, you make me better. I mean, you just do. And the whole experience and just what you've done with me has allowed me to do what I do better in every aspect. So I made you, I didn't force you, but I said, can you do some type of offer that you can see if there's anybody that watches, that if you can help them in some way.
Yeah, and what it basically is, if you go to my website, I have my last slide for this. It's margaretcroom.com. It's just my name. And I have a menu item up there that says book. It's not a book I wrote.
Right.
I just realized that. It's not a book I wrote. It's basically you can book a free 30-minute consultation with me. And one of the things I do discuss, and I don't mind giving this away at all,
Right.
because it's so valuable information to know if you're self-employed or an entrepreneur. I hear a lot of people calling themselves entrepreneurs.
Right.
And the little tacky side of me is like, no, you're not. But that's the tacky side of me. But inside going, you're not one.
But you know what? But not only are you saying that, but they need to understand it and realize it, because when you talk to people, you have a very clear idea of where they are in their journey. And if they're calling themselves an entrepreneur and they're really self-employed, you're doing them a favor. So you have to be open to receiving that information, because that's the only way you get better.
Well, and the person who really led me to start thinking that way a number of years ago was my own dad.
Yes.
My dad was a pastor. And so if you think of a church as a business, so to speak, and, they're selling Jesus.
Right, exactly.
That's kind of tacky. Sorry, Dad. But anyway.
That's another show, Margaret.
He's running, he's running a business. He has staff members. He's got his audience, the whole thing. And I was complaining to him about someone that was involved in the business that I have. And he goes, well, I could have told you they weren't going to work out. They're self-employed. They're not entrepreneurs. They don't have the mindset of an entrepreneur. They're self-employed. So they're into self-protection.
Right. That's such a good point.
Yeah, and he said that person has never run a business.
Right. That's a really good point.
So, for instance, in some of the world that I came from, when you work with agencies, a lot of the owners of agencies started out as self-employed, and then they hired people. And then before you know it, they had a real business where they were entrepreneurs.
Right.
They're not involved in every single aspect of that agency, marketing agency business at all. They're overseeing it. And then they allow people to become partners because of their contribution.
Right.
And so they really are business owners.
Right. And that's really, if that's your mindset, that's so much fun. I mean, it is so much fun to collaborate with people and to be able to create jobs for other people. I mean, it's at the end of the day, that's legacy development at its finest, and that's really, you just evolve into it, and that's how it. But I love it that you got that from your dad.
I did. I got that from my dad, and I never thought about what he did was a entrepreneurial endeavor or self-employed endeavor or whatever, because he was hired by a church and they paid him, so he was an employee as well.
Right.
But on the other hand, if you lead things to grow and scale that church, and you build a new building, and you are acting in that endeavor for them, and so it was like an Oprah aha moment. I'm like, oh
yes,
and so it's not that I don't want to hire self-employed people. I do very specific tasks, but for the big picture, I want someone who has an entrepreneur mindset for sure.
I love that. I love that. And you are amazing. And I think, every week I do Ask Jens. Sometimes you're brave and you'll send a video, and I love it when you do. Other times you'll just shoot me over an email with the question, or you go to my website, jensjohnson.com, and you provide a question. But I try to the best of my ability, match it with our show topic. And to me, that's what this Ask Jens question is. So it is, what is the first team member you should employ as a solo entrepreneur? And in my opinion, it depends on what your goals are. It depends on what your big picture is. But the 3 top people, I think, number 1 is an assistant. So you can work on your business and not in your business. The second is somebody that is overall strategic business advisor in business development, and a communications strategist or specialist. If you're going to grow online, I promise you need the assistance of a communications specialist, and that's who we have today with Margaret Croom. So would you agree with those 3?
I do agree with those 3.
I mean, I'm serious. To your point about branding, I love my branding. It is amazing, but great branding. And I'm a big believer that you need to have good branding. So, you have to become clear with what you want to do and what your services are and where you want to go. But once you have that clarity, you do need to spend money to make money.
Well, and let me say this too, because I've heard both sides of it saying, oh, I just want to be myself and be organic because then people will like me. And that's not untrue. But the fact of the matter is that your branding is your first impression. And if you're faking it till you make it type person, you should invest in some branding.
Right.
For sure.
Exactly.
And as those clients roll in, and as the emails roll in interest in whatever that you're doing, then you can basically say it was because of my branding that got it there first. It's not what keeps them.
That's right.
Your branding will not keep a client.
Right.
Your branding will not grow your business.
That's so true. But it gets people in the door for you for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's so many examples. I mean, Nike's one of them. Their branding is just that little swoosh. And it's amazing branding. It's super simple. And you can't say that they would have been as successful. They may have been. They may have worked harder, to get there. But it is worth spending money on branding for sure.
No, 100%. All right. Now, our Laughter is the Best Medicine video is, I try to match the videos with my guest, and I love it when my guests will pick a Laughter is the Best Medicine video. But Margaret hasn't seen this, and so this is our Laughter is the Best Medicine video for this week.
Oh, where's the goal? Keep it going. Make your fucking goal. Oh, where's the goal? Keep it going. Make your fucking goal. Oh, where's the goal? Keep it going. Make your fucking goal.
So the dad, to the best of his ability, tried to save that goal from happening. What's so funny is if you try to find it on YouTube, it says, I think it's the best dad of the year or some award, because of course that's not a coach. That was the dad of the child that was the goalie that he pushed to knock over.
And there's
with the
another
ball.
one out there where the boy jumps after it goes.
Yeah.
So have you seen that one?
No.
It goes in the net and then he jumps for it.
It's
It's I can watch it over and over and over again. So you're right. I like that one.
Well, the thing is so important is laughter truly is your best medicine. I tell people all the time, if there were 3 words that I could pick that describes me the best, it's love, laughter in leadership. I love to laugh. I mean, you have no idea all the physiological greatness that happens in your body when you laugh. You need to laugh, and you need to realize that life is it's what we make of it. And even if you have bad days, they're going to get better. Nothing lasts forever. And I tell people too that not only do the bad times not last forever, the good times don't last forever also.
That's
so
true.
enjoy the moment. And from the bottom of my heart, Margaret, thank you so much for
You're welcome. It was
everything
great.
that you do for me, for everything that you do for really. I always think that when two people come together, then we merge. And
Right.
you're helping not just me, you are helping so many people that I help as clients, whether they're corporate clients or whether they're individual private clients. You just make me a better person, and I love you. I love having you on
Thank
my
you.
team.
Very
And
sweet.
I'm not going to let you go. So as you move, as you move on, I'm always going to have a little piece of you. So
Right.
thank you so much. And for your lovely husband, because it is, we are celebrating Christmas Eve today. What could we do for him that that would show some special care? I know I'm supposed to ask you a question, and I can't remember what that question is.
Oh, I know. He asked me what my favorite item to buy, goodie to buy at Christmas time. He said, "Ask Jen's. What's her favorite goodie to buy at Christmas time?"
And if I think about it, it reminds me of Alec Baldwin and some beautiful people, and I think it's sweaty balls.
Yeah, me too.
I think
I love
that's-
sweaty balls. Do you love sweaty balls?
I love the sweaty balls.
Yeah, me
The,
too.
the cake balls. And
Yeah.
the cake balls are always good at Christmas time.
Yeah, yeah. But, sweaty balls are absolutely my favorite. He does such a good job, Mr. Sweaty.
Yeah, sweaty is the best.
He's the best.
He's the best. And
Yum.
for you,
Yum. Hmm.
have a Merry Christmas.
You too. Merry Christmas.